Yeah, I was gonna say, what was my last trip? I think it was DevOps. So that was like sometime last month. I haven't traveled yet this month.
That's pretty impressive.
But I leave Sunday and fly to Winnipeg, do a conference there, fly Tuesday night, fly to New York City, and then drive into Pennsylvania for another conference. And then fly to Boston for the weekend to visit my daughter. And I'll come home. And then October, I've got an event in Cincinnati. Very next day I fly to Berlin.
For fun or for work?
Well, for an event.
For an event.
Yeah. Although they got me busy.
Let's say I'd classify it.
Three sessions and a workshop. So it's, they're keeping me busy. So it is actually two different events, but one of these, actually three events in the same location. And then come home from that, and then in November I go to Prague. And then so far that's the last for this year.
Not a bad way to go.
Yep. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and get it started. So we're already streaming. So welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us. So for those who haven't met me before, my name is Chad Green. I've been running this group for I don't even remember how long. It's been quite a while. But today we're going to talk about .NET Inspire. But first, once I get focus again. There we go. Come on. There we go. Couple announcement slides. So always want to thank Tech Systems for providing food and Slingshot for providing us some space. As far as upcoming meetups, so next month we will be October 15th, which is not a normal cycle. It'll be a Tuesday instead of a Thursday. Still in the third week, but as you just heard me saying, I'm traveling, and so our normal Thursday I'm actually speaking in Cincinnati, and I'm leaving for Berlin right afterwards. Still TBD on the presentation, but we'll have that scheduled here probably next week. November, I don't know who's going to do the talk, but we're going to have a talk about what's new in C# and .NET, because there's .NET Inspire in November, so this will be right after that. So we'll be able to hear all great stuff coming out. And then on December 19th, Dwayne Newman, he may come to town or he may be virtual. He's still trying to figure that out, but he will definitely be presenting. He's going to be talking about Maui. So Maui's great if you want to do your mobile apps and that type of stuff. And he's been doing Maui since it came out. He was doing Xamarin before that. So he's a consultant doing his own thing. So he's got a lot of experience there. Some upcoming events. There is I'm like in the way. And I brought a long cord, but it's not that long once we had to plug it in that way.
Yeah.
I have longer ones. All right. Anyway, so October 17th, which is the third Thursday of October, is Momentum. That's up in Cincinnati. Really nice conference. Actually do it at the, this is weird. This cord is going to bother me. But they do it up at the Hard Rock. So, if you get bored of sessions, you can go gamble all your. What are you doing now?
I'm going to move the table behind you so you can.
Well, okay. Let's not.
Oh. Man, you got too many cords.
I only have two cords. I do need to be able to type. Well, this is a demo presentation, right? All right. So, lots of great speakers. Surprised, where's the rest of the day? But there will be two of us, from here coming here, although the rest is not here tonight. But some other upcoming events, and these, actually, Ignite is online and in person, but they've already sold out, which is crazy. I think the numbers are actually still NDA, but it's a lot of people, and they've already sold out. So that's It's pretty incredible. But .NET Conf, like I said, that's where they release officially the new versions of .NET and C# and ASP.NET and all that great stuff. So that'll be November 12th and 14th. And then you have Ignite, which is November 19th and 22nd. Both of those are free events. Well, Ignite, if you attend in person, it's like $3,000, but you can attend it for free online. Okay, and then some other, if you want to travel, so some other events, sure enough, you can join me in Winnipeg or Pennsylvania next week. Those are really soon here. Or you can come to Germany. That's where you want to go. I listed that twice. That's how much I like that conference. Come to Germany. Or Update Conference in Prague. I'm actually looking forward to Prague. All right, and finally, for those who haven't been here before, so at the end of the session, some of us, hopefully all of us, go out to Brick House, just a chance to just hang out and talk more, and we talk about Aspire or whatever, right? All right, so sure enough, tonight we're going to talk about Aspire. So this is a newer thing. So if you heard of Project Tie, that was a project that's been going around for a long time. It never went production. It was always experimental. Aspire is basically the successor to Tie. You can still use Tie. As a matter of fact, Jasper, we still use Tie, but we're all our new stuff is going to Aspire. Now, caveat about this presentation. Sure enough, it is. I'm not going to speak like a pirate, but it is Pirate Day today. Hence my graphic. But this will be a more casual presentation, mostly because I've been busy. So I actually have gone through these slides before and gave them, but it's been a while and I didn't rehearse again. So some of these you'll see as I see it, right? I have been playing with Aspire though, so I actually have some experience with it. All right, so all right, and sure enough, these aren't my slides; these are Microsoft slides. So if there's a problem with them, blame Microsoft. So. Or there's not a problem with them because I didn't write them. However you look at it. Sure, some great learner resources. I will say they have really done a good job of documenting Aspire. It's really easy to get some information. So, if we look at, the .NET world, especially in the web world, they do have, they've got a lot of great resources out there, for building things, right? Whether, cloud, web, desktop, mobile, lots of great tools out there. I'm just going to sit down. So lots of great tools out there to work on different things, but and they've worked really hard to get everything unified. So the whole confusion of why is there no .NET 4? Well, it's because it was .NET Framework, and with .NET 5 we unified everything, right? Although it really didn't happen until .NET 7 when Maui was finally ready. But now everything is unified. And so it's all one code base. And it's a whole lot of code bases because you've got a lot of things, but everything works well with each other. And that's one of the big deals. And sure enough, now within .NET, and this was crazy to think of a couple years ago, but whoops. See, I'm still all twisted up. Sorry. No, it's just, so for those who don't know, we've been having issues with HDMI cables being too short. I bring a longer cable, but then the cable that comes out was no longer there. So my longer cable wasn't that much longer. There we go. So, but also now, we can deploy on, on Windows, on Mac, on Linux, on ARM. The computer I'm using right now is an ARM computer. It's not an Intel machine, right? And as .NET developers, we don't have to do anything, right? There are things that if we want to publish it for an ARM in particular, we can optimize it. Well, now you're here. I've already sung your praises, and now you show up. Oh. I was talking about momentum. Well, I did talk about Tech Bash, but Tech Bash is all the way in Pennsylvania. So, all right. But along with this, there's some things that we need, right? That weren't in there, right? So we need the ability to observe what's going on, right? When when things don't work as expected, right? When all of a sudden you get a whole lot more traffic than expected, how can we observe this, right? And this is a hot topic, over the last couple of years, and it's because it's becoming more and more important, especially as we get more distributed. One of the hardest parts about building distributed applications is now I've got all these things to watch, and up until Aspire, there was nothing built into Azure to do that. Resiliency. I mean, there's been things for resiliency. I've been building that for a long time, but again, getting it built in, so we're not having to do as much stuff. Building more stuff for scalability, building things in for managing your applications. And while .NET includes a lot of stuff to handle this, there's still a lot of work you have to do to use this, right? I mean, .NET 8 did make a big difference. .NET 9's adding more stuff, but until we got to Aspire, right, it wasn't easy, right? It was complex. How do we get started? That was one of the hard parts, all right? If you've known me for a while, one of my complaints about Microsoft is, they, over the last about 15 years, they have decided that they want to be, very unopinionated, right? They just want to provide you a whole lot of options. And I'm like, no, just tell me how I should build this, right? You all are the experts, so tell me, right? And, that's one of the things they're trying to work with. So that's where we get Aspire, all right? So this cloud-ready stack for building observable, production-ready, distributed application. Actually, I love the fact they added production-ready. So was it not production-ready before? But we now have this. So, well, they want to talk about think about your quote unquote typical web application. They love their stores. That's one of the things they love showing off is how to work on a store. But again, this thing that it's got a lot of pieces into it, right? It's not just a matter of a website with pages and such. But we've got those cloud services. We've got things like our backends, our databases. And databases could be a lot of different things. And again, more and more into your cloud service, your event bus. I mean, here again, showing how Microsoft has changed. I mean, they're not even talking about only Microsoft products. They've got event bus are showing as RabbitMQ, Redis, Postgres. Boy, a whole lot of things I don't work with. I work with Redis, but I don't do RabbitMQ or Postgres. But lots of different things. Also, OpenAI, because you got to have AI in your apps nowadays, or it's supposedly useless, right? So how can we work with this? But more importantly, how can we work with those really big apps? Well, how do we also work with the small apps? And that's one of the things I think they did a good job is building this out. So there's basically 6 big things that they've added with Aspire, right? One, you've got your smart defaults. This whole idea of, basically that's an opinionated part. We're gonna show you some ways how you should do this, and we're gonna set up defaults so that using best practices, making sure that we're secure by default, making sure that we're scalable by default, making sure we're observable by default, making it very easy to do that. The dashboard, which is really nice, all right, and they're actually making some changes in Azure right now so that I can also use that dashboard in there. So again, for the developers, being able to see what's going on, getting to the logs really easily. The orchestration, the service discovery. This is one of the hardest parts. You work with all these distributed applications. So sure enough, our newer apps we're working on Jasper. It's a Blazor app. Talking to Service Bus, getting data from app configuration and Key Vault, but also writing data on Cosmos and Azure SQL. And these could be just one system. They're writing all these different things. And one of the hard parts, I'm in charge of our DevOps. So that's one of the things I do. And one of the hard parts that I have to deal with is, okay, I now have to get each one of those applications configured so that the developers easily can figure out how to connect to all these different things. And it's one of the things that they really have done a nice job with Aspire, is making it a whole lot easier. The integrations, which up until 2 weeks ago was called components, but they decided to call it integration. So if you've been looking at Aspire, you're like, where did my components go? They're now integrations. I don't know why. All right. Honestly, the name integration does make more sense because that's what it is. But these are, again, when I need to connect to a service bus, or I need a RabbitMQ, or I need a Cosmos database, it makes it really simple. I was having to, I've got a new project getting started up, and they're going to use caching, and we haven't used Redis cache at Jasper before. And I was looking up, how do we do this? It literally was, I had 2 lines of code, and all of a sudden we've got output caching happen, right? And, it was that simple. They want to talk about how the deployment story is easier. That depends, right? If you're going to be more formal, I'm still working on trying to figure that out myself, all right? Sure enough, doing simple deployments is really easy because, there's been the Azure CLI, the command line interface. Now there's the Azure Developer Command CLI, or AZD. And it has, I can simply get an application up there, but doing multiple environments and everything still takes more work. And I'm working on it. I was hoping to have that all figured out before this presentation, but I got busy with some other things. Because they're still doing requirements generation. They're like, oh, here, we need this. Now that's going to be our first requirement for this really large project. So, all right. So let's start looking at what this looks like. And here's where we're going to have fun. We're going to duplicate instead. And so I'm just going to make sure that I am broadcasting what I think I'm broadcasting. I am not. And also cut off here. Let me share again. Come on. Okay. So just to start off, we've got, we just have a simple web application out here. This is not aspired yet, right? It's just a normal, we've got this Blazor app. The other thing they used to do apps, now they do a weather app. So we got this Blazor app that'll show the weather, and we've got an API. All right, a simple API out there. So how can we start making this better? And again, I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to have my notes off here to the side. Again, I was hoping I have a new external monitor. I was hoping to have my notes over there, but you're just going to see it on the screen. So we're gonna make this an Aspire project, and sure enough, there is a whole template you can start from a new project. But most people aren't starting from a new project. You've got an existing project you're trying to update, and that's one of the great things that they've worked with here. So the first thing we need to do is add those service defaults, right? How do we easily connect to things? So we're going to go ahead and we're going to add a new project. And we're going to search for .NET Aspire service defaults. There we go. And they want us to call it just service defaults. So we'll add it into that folder, .NET 8. All right, so now we've added that project in here, right? And we can see it's got an extensions class in here. But now what we want to do, so we're going to add a reference in here. Try that again. And we're going to add a project reference. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm doing the wrong thing. We're going to go to the API because this basically is the connector in between these two. Because right now the API and the Blazor app, they are two separate apps. I forgot to mention that. So let me do this again. We're going to add a project reference to the service defaults, and we're going to do the same thing to our Blazor app. Okay. So now I've done that. So now we've connected everything. Now we're going to go into our Blazor app, open up the program file. Let's just making sure I got that right. Let me hide that. And again, just your standard Blazor app. But now we're going to add. I'm just trying to find the line in here. There it is, right up top. So we're going to say builder, add service defaults. And that's not everything we have to do. Now we're also going to go to, we also have to add app map default endpoints. And then in the API, we're going to add that again. App map default endpoints, or nope. Yeah, I did the right thing. Why is that not working now? What? Because I put it in too early.
You have to load down again.
Yeah, it would help if I add that after I've declared the variable. That would help. I do write code. I did it also here. I didn't notice that. Okay, so sure enough, now we can run this application. So we're going to go in here. We're going to configure the startup projects, and we're going to say multiple startup projects, and we're going to start up. I'm just making sure I got this right. Yeah, the hub and the API. All right, so now we can start these both up. And we'll see something right away once this gets started here. Well, typical, you got to connect your SSL. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I did share the SSL. Why? And it was like brand new machine. So some things that would work, after you've done it a couple times.
That's when you might end up finding out that you don't have some module installed that you didn't expect to need.
Yeah, come on. And I liked it before when they would tell you, when you had the option of just, yeah, I know there's a problem, let me just go on. Now, okay, what is it?
I've noticed like it'll still do that on some sites, but then there's ones where I guess like they determine it's like not safe at all, so they're just like, no, you're not going to get that option. It seems like.
Let me try if I rebuild the whole thing real quick. This will be a real fun demo if I don't get very past this. All right.
Maybe you can delete that out. Different browser. Do you have a Chrome also?
I do. But really what it is, hold on one second. It's Blazor, SSL, local host. Let's see if I can find this real quick. Let's see if Chrome is nicer. If not, I'll look there. I know what it is. I just don't know. I don't know off the top of my head how to. Well, that's even funner. At least Blazor's like, yeah, I don't care. You don't have a certificate, right? But I'm gonna get a 500. Why? All right, that's that really could be tied to the same problem. Let me get this actual error message again. And we've got a Copilot machine, so let's go to Copilot here. I have a Blazor app, and I'm getting the following error when running locally. Let's see if Copilot will be smart today. Yeah, there we go. That's what I was looking for. Okay. I think this will work now. Let me just get all these browsers closed. Oops, not that one. It's taking longer. That's a good sign. Except for now, okay, now we're getting the same error that Chrome was giving us. Why? Our zones. All right, let's just take a look at something here. Oops, I didn't mean to close Visual Studio. I got too happy with the. See, this is why you try things out with a new laptop before you go and demonstrate. But now it's complaining about Docker. And maybe that was the problem before. So sure enough, for Aspire, you have to, Docker's needed to be in your machine. But all I have to do is get it running, right? Now, I'm going to try something here real quick. Because, so that was working. But let's just, I think it was more than just that. Yeah. I do wonder if someone broke the build. All right, no problem. It just means some of the parts it tells me to do, it's already done because it's a sample app now. But so here's what here's what I was trying to show. Of course, there's already a little more built in here. But so sure enough, you get this dashboard up here, right? This dashboard is really cool. So right away, I get to see my resources. If I had multiple APIs, right, or what have you, like different microservices and everything, you can, they'll show up here also, right? So I can see my endpoints. You can see that actually it's configured for 2 different endpoints for each one of them. This is already, because by default, it's already got the Redis. I know that's a step later on. That's already set up here, but we even see the Redis up and running. That's actually the reason why I was complaining about Docker, is because it's got Redis in here by default. And then I can go to my web front end, and it was just going to go to this demo here. But so that's all working. And this is a container. It's already containerized, so it makes it easier to get it deployed.
Message on your phone from Philip Japix.
And I'm going to see if someone give me a hard time. No, he's not. But well, it is Phil. It is Phil who's asking me a question, but he doesn't know I'm presenting right now. He's asking completely different things. All right. But it would be like him to give me a hard time in the middle of my presentation. All right. So let me go back to, let's see, what else what are they going to have you do in this part of this? They just wanted to also show, well, they actually do have a breaking thing built into what's supposed to be the workshop, where if you do it 5 times, Poly will restart up, because Poly's also built in. That's one of the other things they made with Aspire. So Poly is a .NET Foundation project, really great for like restarts. So again, that fault tolerance. What do you do when a service wasn't available? Well, first thing you should probably do is try to hit it again, right? And they've actually built in so it'll automatically restart, and it'll then maybe say, okay, well, wait 3 seconds before you try again. Or if it does it like 5 times in a row, it'll actually do like a circuit breaker. You have all these options you can do.
I thought they moved Poly into resilience. They changed the name.
They did. It still will show Poly though.
Okay.
Yeah. So, because here you can see they say, well, actually, I think they put it in their text message to show it Poly, but yes, it is all part of the resilience.
Reversing proxy, something like that.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, going back to these slides here. Yeah. So, okay, so now we're going to talk about the smart defaults, right? So again, the whole idea, how do we get these things built in? I already started talking about some of the stuff. We saw some of the things. We saw the dashboard coming up. And here we're seeing that, they are using open I can never say that word. OpenTML, I can't say it. Thank you. I can't say it. No matter what I try, I can't get it out. But so that's actually now built in, right? And it is pretty much the standard. There are ways if you want to, because there are competitors. So if you have another, I cannot say the word. If you have another, tool to watch your stuff, there's, you can switch them out. But they have built this in. It is really nice. We'll see that. I'll show some more of that when we're doing some more stuff. But if we look at that code, it was built in, but also we can see how easy it is to do this, right? They merely add an endpoint and then it gets used throughout the application. The resilience, and we were talking about this, it got added in there. You can see the add standard resilience handler, right? And that right there handles a lot. You used to have to do a whole lot more configuration for that. Now it's just built in there for us. The health checks, so making sure that we actually have a healthy web application out there. All right, so this next one, again, some of the stuff's probably already done. Let me get to the next one here. Well, that's not even the next one they're doing. I tell you, I'm gonna talk about slides and then we're gonna go back to code. I think this will be a little bit easier, especially since we've got a demo that's in a different state. It's gonna go to question and answer. That's weird. They have a question and answer after a demo. That's not how I normally do it. All right. So the developer dashboard, right? So I'm just going to talk about these and then we'll show it. So again, I was talking about this, this whole thing of having a dashboard makes it really easy. So, one of the hardest parts about working on an app, locally or not locally, is what happened. Where was that error? How do I put, do I got to put breakpoints in to find, this little bitty thing? And they built these really nice dashboards that make that whole easier, give you full dumps of what happened, so we easily find that information. And they've built in nice integrations, right? So it's built in. You can do a standalone with with Docker, or the app host can do this for us. The orchestration. So you saw when I started up, I had to actually go in and specify multiple projects to start up. That's now gone, right? I'll show it here in a moment. The template actually starts up the app service instead of the individual projects. And again, another nice way of making it easier, right? Because one of the hard parts about having a solution where you have to start multiple projects is when you have multiple developers, which if you have multiple projects, you probably have multiple developers. Yeah, sometimes that app setting, that setting goes away, and all of a sudden the developer has to figure out, well, what all was I supposed to start, right? What are these apps we're supposed to get started? So like I said, they made these easier. And again, I just add these projects in here. So I specify, here's my domain, and here's my projects I'm going to have it in here. And then so after, and we saw this, right, that whole list of resources in there. What do they want to talk about here? Shocker, they built tools, kicks into Visual Studio. The whole complaint about Microsoft, they own everything, right? So they can add their own stuff. But that's one of the things why we use their tools. With that being said, I don't use Writer, but I know people do, and they've had really good success using Writer with Aspire. So if that's what you're using, not a problem. Writer has done a good job of connecting to all that stuff. The service discovery. This is the one I'm really excited about because again, I build distributed applications, right? It's people who have heard me do my regular talks. I'm talking about event-driven architecture, right? So lots of different tools, and that whole connecting all these things, right? So before, we'd have these complicated app settings, and there's been we'll have the local app settings, the dev app settings, the prod app settings, and I accidentally checked that into the Git repo and all that good stuff. Lots of hard stuff. Now it's just simple, right? And now the applications, because now again, this is showing the simple part. This is showing the API that is within the solution file, but also we get this easier with the like a service bus or these external services. And again, they're showing they still have connection strings, right? They're just they're a little bit better hidden. So the integrations, and here's the other part I was talking about again. like I said, up until like 2 weeks ago, this was called components, but now this is called integrations. And this is where there's specialized packages that were written to make all this a whole lot easier, right? And so just making it so much easier. Here we can see that we're saying, hey, okay, here's my Postgres database. All right, we see this in the box. I'm defining that, and then down here, I'm saying, hey, my API, it needs a reference to that database, and that's all I had to do. It automatically it has everything referenced in there, right? And it's obviously doing dependency injection to make that happen. Same thing with here we got that web app, and we're adding that cache, and it's just all there for us. Yeah, and that's the other thing. It will automatically, if you're using container-based services, which here the Postgres and the cache or the Redis are showing, are actually running their own containers. It downloads the containers for you, so you don't even have to do that up front. So that's pretty nice that we can do with this. Again, the client, we just say add Redis output cache, and I've got it, right? And then the second box is add the output caching, and if I do that, this is in the program file. If I do that, every response that comes out is cache. Now, you actually don't want to do that in most applications. In a simple application, that works just fine. If you have a larger application, you don't want to do that. Actually, will hit your web server a whole lot harder than you want to hit it. And there are attributes you can put on the page that so you'll have more than just one line of code, but it's only one line per page you want to cache. So it's nice you can do that, or your API methods, you can do that also. All right, and then deployment. And like I say, I think there's still some work to be done here, right? And they are making some but they have worked on ways to make this easier to deploy. Notice that AWS is in there, so not just Azure, all right? At the summit, so a Microsoft MVP, one of the big benefits is I get to go to the MVP summit every March. And, so at the summit, when I was at the Aspire session, they were very proud of the fact that they got AWS to sign up early and get everything written so that the moment that they published, everything was working in AWS just as well as it worked in Azure, right? And that's really good to hear, right? Because those two companies are bitter rivals, right? But they both understand, it's they're going to, each one of them are going to sell more products by supporting it. Yes, ma'am.
I mean, especially like with how many companies like they have like redundancy across multiple like providers
Mhm.
because that way if one goes down, okay, we got this one temporarily, then we can go back.
Yep. So okay, what they're wanting to show here is that I'm surprised it's not a video. But what they're trying to show here is, again, the whole right-click publish, right? That's when they say it's real easy to publish. Again, we don't. Oh, there's the video part. I needed to click on it. So yes, you have the right-click publish, which for doing hobby apps works perfectly great. And it does make it work really well. I'm surprised they don't have. They should have also had another slide talking about how there's also AZD, that Azure developer thing in there. All right, and then they're just talking about you can add this in the app. Oh yeah, and they're showing you could do so you could do Angular. If you don't like your life, you want to do JavaScript, you can do that too. I joke. Funny story. I was at a conference earlier this year, and at lunch, I'm sitting next to Corey House. So Corey House is a big name in the React world. All right, he's a big instructor and very influential in the React world. And I made a joke. I made my normal joke of with JavaScript. I have people for that, and he looked at me. He's like, "What did JavaScript do to you? How did it burn you so bad?" I'm like, "I'm just joking, right? But I don't want to do JavaScript." All right. All right. Well, that's already passed. But so let's go back and like I said, let me just talk about what we can see in here, especially because I've got a working project. So Oh, it's still up and running, which is great. So again, if we look at this, I already showed this part, but let's go back here. One of the great parts in here, and let me actually do a couple clicks just so I can get some activity in here. All right. Your typical Blazor application, right? Nothing special in it. But now, like I said, I can go to the console. Oh, I need to select a resource. That's why. But so I can see it all right here. I'm gonna have to dig through all these different console windows because they're here, right? I can go to the console windows also, right? But what happens when I've got a bunch of applications running together, right? It just makes this a whole lot easier. But even more important is the structured logs, right? Again, I can see my logs up here, and I'm getting great information. And the thing is I didn't have to do anything to make this happen, right? This is just built into Aspire, which is, I really, really like. Unfortunately, like I said, the demo actually builds in an error, which is nice because you can show it. I'm not really good at purposely writing errors. But if I can dig further, I can actually start seeing the trace, right? We get this also, push F12, you get a lot of these traces also, but here I get even more details because again, it's tying all the different services within my app. I also get metrics built in here, right? So if I go to my web front end, I haven't played too much with these, and not gonna be all exciting on a local app, on the local host. But think about when we see this, in the actual in production, right? Getting this information, and it's all right here. So I think I've said it a whole bunch of times. It's just there, and that's what's really cool about it. And the great part is like I said, if you're doing Blazor already, there's nothing new here. All right, it's using everything Blazor's been doing, just with a couple of adding some things to get all this greatness in here. So let's actually look at the code a little bit more. And again, kind of show this off some more. So in here, we'll bring this up just so we can see along here. So in the sample app, which is pretty typical of an app you're going to be building here. So again, we've got the Blazor. Here, let me make that bigger. We've got that, the Blazor app. We've got a test client. Hopefully you're doing unit testing. Interesting enough, at Jasper, we're using MS Test. I didn't even realize that was still in support. But it is. Here you see that service default that we were adding, to the other project. But also you get an app host, which if we step through the process, we would have eventually got that added in. And that's what that part I talked about, how I don't have to, now if I look at my startups, one thing I don't like about the menu is that it gets so big and you can't hardly find anything when you're looking for it. And I never remember where everything's at. Where is my... Well, anyway, I was trying to show that, oh, there it is, configure startup projects. It's now just, we saw multiple, for heaven's sakes. Try that again. We saw multiple apps getting started, but I'm only starting one project. I'm starting that app host. So if we take a look at this app host, because this is important to understand how this works, because we have to do. Oh, I'm already in it. So again, we can see here. I'm going to create my builder. Typical how we do everything else, in the ASP.NET world. Here you can see I'm going to add Redis, and then I'm going to add a project. So I'm adding my API service. I'm not doing anything particular with that API service, but then we're going to, we can add to here we got our web app, and notice it's got the external endpoints. That is great for once this gets deployed, because it's not going to be internal endpoints. It is going to actually be external, because it will actually, the deployment piece actually will separate the solution out And so it'll create a container for the API and a container for that Blazor app. It does that for you automatically. You can see I'm adding a reference with the cache, and I'm adding a reference for the API service. Right? If we were to look, well, there's really nothing to look at the service defaults because that's Microsoft's code. It's there because you might eventually do some customization. I haven't done much with it yet because we haven't had a need for any of that. But let's take a look. Let's try this. Let's see how well I can do this off the top of my head. We'll go to the root. So here we are, not to the root, but we'll go to. So this is that's right. This is a minimum API. I had to remember. I was like, let me find the controller. I'm in a minimum API, but let's see here. Let me look this up because I don't remember how this is completely off my head. Even though I was just doing this the other day. .NET Aspire cache. Yeah. Oh, you know what? I can do this real simple. Again, so we didn't add this to beginning, but we could go in here and so go back to my app host. And let's say, with reference and add that cache, all right? And then go in here and go to here. What's already added in here? I thought I had, well, it's already, well, like I say, I'm still learning it myself too. I thought I had to add that cache, but it has already added it. Like I say, magical. It does it. It's already did it for me. All right. But so let's take a look at this. So we talked about deployment. Let me show. Yes, you can do a right click, but let me show the other way of doing this. And I do need to look this up real quickly here. So .NET Aspire, AZD upload or publish. So, like I say, there's this whole new AZD, right? Like I say, it's an extension. So you do have to already have the Azure CLI on your machine. I believe I did install all that. We'll find out here in a second. Yeah, I needed these instructions because I don't remember all those steps here. But we can go in here. Yeah, I'm not running. It's not running anymore. I want to make sure that it was stopped. But not that I actually need PowerShell, but I almost always go to PowerShell. But so I can do things like I can say AZD. Oh, let me go to the folder. That would help. I don't know where it created it because I just said the default folder. So CD, whoops. All right, so here we're at our root of our solution. So I will do AZ login. I do think this is the first time I've logged into here with this machine, so not that this is not that hard. Well, that was fun. Try that again. Here, although that Microsoft account right there should have just worked just fine. Hold on. Oh, that won't help me because I'm still. Yeah, it's like I'm still broadcasting. Let me not show my password to everyone in the world, you know. Oh, well, apparently I'm not bright. Oh, and there's a comment. Can you show my screen? I'm sorry, I wasn't showing the screen. All right. So let me log in real quick, and then we'll get my screen back going. All right. So for some reason, like I said, pretty sure this is the first time I've tried logging in, and it definitely is. So here's what we'll do. Let me stop. Let me share again over here. Okay. And what we'll do, the joys of new computers. And hopefully I don't have anything on my desktop that I'm going to be embarrassed by. I doubt it. Well, it hit everything anyways. All right. So let's create a new project real quick. Again, we'll do the starter app. Okay. And we'll make sure real quick that it's working. Because the way how my luck's been going tonight, you know. Okay. Oh, well. Well, that. Docker should have already been started on this machine. I don't know why Docker wasn't running. Okay, I was running a Spire project just yesterday. So this is like a comedy of errors. All right. What I wanted to show, I mean, I'll just go to the documentation here. Whoops. All I was trying to show here, again, if we go to the documentation, they've made it really nice and easy, right? So you'll do this. Well, you have to log in, which was the problem. For some reason, I can't log into my machine, my account. It's really bothering me. Why can't I not? Yeah, okay. Never mind. So once you log in, and you're in your solution, you do this AZD and net. And basically what that does is it actually looks at that, the service registry project, looks at what projects actually belong there. And it actually is building an ARM file, right? So Azure Resource Management file. And, and it will build by default. I'm sure I know you can configure this. I have not done that part, but but by default, it'll build Azure Container Apps, which, trust me, that's the way you want to go, right? You don't want to deal with Kubernetes. That's annoying. Yeah. When Microsoft was first announcing container apps privately, they were telling us that they said there are studies where 70% of Kubernetes projects fail, not and eventually succeed, fail and have to restart over, right? It was just an insane number. But so so you do that, it'll settle up, and you can see in here, right? It's even talking about, right? It's because it's gonna ask a couple questions. It's gonna ask you where you're gonna deploy and everything. But then once you've got that, then you're gonna log in again. But then you do this AZD up. All right. So once you run the init, unless you add another project or anything, you don't have to run the init again. But then to upload it, it's AZD up, and then that, like I say, takes care of all of it for you. Because while container apps are a whole lot easier, still not the easiest thing in the world, right? There's still some things, but this one, it takes care of that for you. So, and then you can see in the end, we've got a container app up and running, and then within there, they're showing, they're running their with their environment variables to set up the, or what they're actually showing here is that they deployed it, right? They deployed the web front end, the API service, the cache. It actually created the connection strings because it knew where everything was, right? Because they're all containers, and so it's creating those containers. And then once you've done it up, then when you make a change, you'll do a deploy, and then that's how you update changes. So just really nice, and you can deploy just particular components, if you don't want to do the whole thing. So I apologize, my demo didn't work very well. It looks like now PowerPoint doesn't. Nothing on what's me tonight. But I hope you still saw it. It's still pretty easy, right? They made a lot of things easier to do, and there's I definitely say, if you're going to be building anything in with a Blazor application in particular, I'd highly recommend using Aspire because it makes getting that product out there a whole lot easier. And then that whole dashboard thing, that's already we haven't actually started active development right now. We're still in our prototype phases, but just writing the prototypes, have been a whole lot easier because I've had the dashboards, and especially as I'm trying to figure out this new stuff and what happened here. And again, I can go into the trace and see exactly what happened, so we can fix that. That was really nice. Why is PowerPoint? My whole computer's just freaking out tonight. It did not like me connecting to Azure. That's a good thing. A Microsoft laptop doesn't like connecting to Azure, apparently. So, any questions? Well, cool. Let's see if there are any questions other than. Oh, hey, Johnny. Other than I wasn't broadcasting the screen. That's the only question I got. All right. So everyone on the stream, thank you so much. Like I said, we will be back again next month, October 17th, was it? 15th or 17th?
Yeah,
15th. I knew it was either the 15th or 17th. I knew it was one of those 2 dates. Yes, sir. Yeah. No. I love it when my audience can harass me, right? That's So sure enough, well, okay, so everyone stream, thank you. We'll see you next time. So sure enough,